Welcome back to our project. Here's our progress so far. It doesn't look like much, but here's the good stuff. In this lecture, we'll add all sorts of layer styles that will make this look fantastic. Let's get to it by starting with the biggest shape on our canvas, the body. Let's add a gradient overlay. Leave it at normal with the opacity set at 100%, but change its style to radial. Let's input our colours starting from the left side, which is the inner part of it. Here I chose FF-E283. This is a light orange that will create a highlight effect. For the right side, we need a powerful colour, so let's go with F7941D. And now this is catching shape. Thing is, I want this highlight more towards the top region of the body, so here's what we'll do. With this window active, move your cursor over the shape, click and drag upwards. This will move it even though you won't see anything is happening in this panel. Okay, this looks good. Next, let's go with an inner shadow. I'll add two in total. This one is the softer of the pair. Blend mode normal, opacity 100%. For the colour, use FF993A. Set the angle at -90 degrees. Now for these sliders, go with 10 pixels for the distance and 20 for the size. I know you can barely see it, but once we add the second one, you'll see it makes a big difference. Click on the plus symbol and let's get to it. This one should be set at multiply with the following code, DA6423. The angle can remain -90 degrees, but increase the distance to 50 pixels and the size to 100. Now you can see this is catching shape quite nicely. This creates a contour effect that makes the body pop. And if you're curious about the top inner shadow, try and disable it. As you can see, this creates a nice glow for the belly region. Nice job. Let's move on to the paws. I'm not sure where you're at with your colours as we went through these pretty fast in the previous lecture, but make sure you're using FF-A132. Okay, before we apply any layer styles, let's group them together. That's because coming up next we'll add a layer mask. You probably know what's our move. Switch to the gradient tool and we'll start swiping to fade them away into the body. Now, depending on the length of these shapes, you may need to swipe more or less. What matters is you have a smooth transition. In case you're having a tough time, use Ctrl-T on these two layers, not the group mind you, and resize them. Okay, I'm happy with them as they are. Let's enable an inner shadow. Select one of the legs. We're not going to apply anything else to the group itself. Okay, here are the settings. Blend mode normal, opacity 100%. Angle -90 degrees with an orange code FF993A. Distance 7 pixels, size 10 pixels. The first effect doesn't appear to make that much of a difference, but let's add a second one underneath it. Set it on multiply with the following code, DA6423. As for the settings, 20 and 40 pixels will work best. Please note this darker inner shadow has to be set underneath the lighter one. If you're having issues with it, reverse their order by using these arrows. So far, so good. Let's move up to the eyes so we can get this rolling. I know this looks pretty creepy, but you'll see how much of a difference these layer styles will make. Let's start from the outer parts with this white layer. Here I'll add a 2-pixel stroke that's set to outside. For the colour code, go with EC671E. Next, add an inner glow with the following settings. Blend mode normal, opacity 70%. Colour-wise, we need something to match this blue, so I ended up with 21A5CC. The technique should be softer with the source point set to edge. For the size, 13 pixels will do just fine considering our proportions. Finally, max out the range to 100% as this will create a feather effect. Looking good. Now, everything we do needs to be mirrored on the right side. Right-click in the Layers panel and choose Copy Layer Styles. Move to the right eye and use the Paste command from the same list. For the inner blue circle, so not this outline, let's add a gradient overlay. Set it to normal, 100% opacity. It needs to be linear, set at 90 degrees. For the colours, let's set them manually. For the left side, I went for a light teal shade, 5A EB-F4. As for the right side, 006B99 is my choice. Okay, close this window and take a look at your progress. The outer part needs to be addressed, so select it from the canvas and change its colour to F98A32. Now add a layer mask and we'll need to swipe a few times to get our bearings. Note that we don't want a long transition. I want the effect to be pretty short, so do your best to mimic my result. As always, remember to hold Shift when you're doing these types of fades through layer masks and the gradient tool. As for the other side, let me show you how you can make your life easier. Of course, it needs to have the same color code of F9 8A32, but you don't need to repeat that swiping action. Instead, click on the mask in the Layers panel and hold Alt. Now drag it above the other shape and let go. Like magic, you get the very same result. You could have duplicated this left eye after everything was completed, but I found it weird to work on a Cyclops character for so many minutes. Let's wrap it up by working on the ears. Start with the outer shape and make it the following orange, FFA132. Everything has to be mirrored, so I won't repeat myself about it. Activate an inner shadow and let's play around with its settings. For the color, go with FEDB7A. Blend mode normal, opacity 100%, set the angle to 90 degrees. Distance 7 pixels, size 18 pixels. This helps us further transmit that 3D feeling. We don't want our character to look flat, so these small little details make all the difference. They're not optional by any means. For the inner ear, change its color to F38400. As you apply it, you can already see it's looking pretty good, but let's add an inner shadow as well to create a sense of depth. Blend mode normal, opacity 100%. Keep the same angle and change the color code to EA7300. As for the distance, 24 pixels is a good value. For the size, use 35 pixels. Okay, I love the progress we've made so far, and you have lots of room to experiment with different ideas. We'll talk more about your assignment at the end of this series. And you know what? Since we're on a roll, let's design the paws as well. First, merge them together with Ctrl E. Now we'll add some styles that will continue our existing line. Let's make our lives easier and copy what we did for the body layer. Now paste it on our paws and we're good to go. Yep, this was a good call. It doesn't seem out of place, but it allowed us to move to the next area a bit faster. That's a nice shortcut for you. Okay, that concludes this lesson. I'll see you soon.